I believe we have it. Okay. This, as Rob stated, this is a webinar presentation on Sage Mass Intelligence and the next generation of financial reporting. The point of it is to introduce you to this tool, and why this is important to you, because FRX is near the end of what they call end of life, and so we need to, you need to understand what's out there to transition from your FRX reports to another tool. And then also, if you're not using FRX, then you may be ready to go to the next level from the Sage standard financial reports. So what we're going to do is just take a little trip through what this tool has to offer. We are going to talk about what is Sage Mass Intelligence. We're going to look at the Mass Intelligence components, take a look at some of the standard reports, and then talk about some FAQs, and finally at the end answer any questions that you might have. As Rob has stated, it'll make it easier if you have questions, you can either write them in the chat and Billy will keep track of those questions, or you can write them down and save them to the end. Okay, so what is Mass Intelligence? It's an Excel-based reporting tool with access to all modules and data and multiple company databases. So when we say all modules, we're talking about not only general ledger financial information, but every other module that you have in your Mass suite. It allows for easy reporting and analysis through Excel, and most people on this call probably have pretty good Excel skills. So it allows you to leverage those skills. Includes predefined financial and operations reports with user-level security. And what we're going to be doing today is the things that I'm going to show you are really just off of the predefined reports. And you can actually add it to Mass 90 desktop, so you don't have to run it from outside, but you can add it as a link from the desktop. And it works with version 4.4 and above. So an important fact to keep in mind, FRX will continue to work for Mass 90 and 200, 405, 430, and 44 for a limited time. Sage's end of life is they are not shipping it with any new 44s. They will not be shipping it with 45, and their end of life is December for support is December of 2012. Eventually, we will need to migrate. For those of you using FRX, we will need to convert them to SMI reports. And the beauty of that is that you don't have to stress about it now. We can take this in a very controlled steps. So, how do the Sage FRX intelligence features compare to FRX, or Mass Intelligence features compare to FRX? And you're going to hear me refer to it as SMI. That's the acronym for it. So throughout the presentation, SMI does have more features than FRX. And what I've done is I've included just a high-level summary below. On this side, it builds the reports in Excel, SMI does. In FRX, it's a multi-step. You build it in FRX, and then you export it out to Excel. SMI has access to all modules and data, and FRX is limited to general ledger data only. Mass Intelligence also has multi-company and multi-database consolidations, and FRX has multi-company consolidations, where that's when we talk about multi-database, we're talking about perhaps CRM, or if you're using Abra or something else out there. Later on in the presentation, I'll show you just a list of all the drivers that you have access to. The basic elements of an SMI report are we have the connector, and then we have the report manager. Within the connector, we have what we call a connection, a container, and an expression. And when we think about it, the connection is which database. So you determine with the connection which database or databases are you going to use. A container is which tables from that database are you going to use, and then the expression is from those tables, which fields are you going to use. So you need all of that, you build all of that in the connector module, and then from the report manager, which is where we'll be spending most of our time today, is what do you want to do? How do you, with that information, what do you want to do with the report? How do you want to filter it? How do you want it to display? What details, what parameters? You do that in the report manager. And then just a step further, the report design. So in this screen we have our databases. So we could have 2 mass companies in Sage CRM. That feeds into the connector module. This is where we build our connections to the database, as in these. We can define the data to be included in our containers, and there's multiple drivers available. This is just a small list of some of the drivers. So there's quite a few that you can actually connect to. It's Odbc compliant sources. So those are multiple drivers. And then also in the connector module, there are the predefined containers that come with the actual SMI. In the report manager, so from the connector we go to the report manager, and as we said before, you're designing the reports with the data containers. You can filter, and you can add sorts and filters and parameters. You can include summation options, and this is the report manager is where you manage and run these reports to go out to Excel. So from report manager it goes to the Excel workbooks. So if we were to take all of that information and put it together, here's how it works. So in this first grouping we have our data. This is our workflow. So we've got our data which feeds into our connector, which that's where our containers are, and that's where we define what's going to be available in Report Manager. And then we have this added level of security. In security, you have the ability to determine who can access the report and whether they can modify it, whether they can do any editing to it or just run the report. So then from the security, it flows up through the Report Manager, which is, as before, this is where you're going to run the report. It goes out into Excel, and Excel to the user desktop, or you can take it to a web server, which can be then distributed to multiple places. The mass intelligent components that you get when you download are the license manager. This is where you enter any kind of licensing information that you have. The security manager is where you are going to define all of your security for your reports and the users. The report manager is where we create and modify any of the reports. An added feature that's added to the Excel is called the Report Designer, and you access that from Report Manager. And what that does, it takes an existing report and it allows you, once you're out in Excel, it allows you to drag and drop and make changes in your report. Report Viewer, this is the view only, so you can run the reports, but there's no editing. This is very much like the FRX Viewer. And then the connector. This is where you connect to additional data containers. And this is, again, this is where you're going to create your containers and determine what is available for reporting on. Mass Intelligence comes with some standard reports. There's a dashboard analysis. There's financial reports, your income statement and balance sheets. Financial trend analysis, and this is not just on, this is on every GL, every general ledger account in your chart of accounts. General ledger transaction details. There's a customer sales report, a vendor purchases report, and an inventory status report. Those are standard with Mass Intelligence. You can, by having a connector license, you can create new containers for any of the other modules. But these are great, these are standard, and one of the things that we're going to show you today is just how easy it is, or how flexible it is to take what the standard containers are, standard reports, and make changes to them. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is the dashboard analysis tool. And it is a quick look at it shows your profit and loss, your top 5 expenses, your top 5 customers, top 5 items, and bottom 5 items. Again, this comes with it, so it gives you a quick look at it. And one of the nice pieces, or I think the nice features of the dashboard is that you can drill down. And when you are drilling down to real-time data. So in this example, I want to look at, and this is out in Excel, I can highlight and right-click and tell it to drill down. And in another tab in that Excel report, it's going to give you this information of what makes it. Gives you the details of what makes up this data for Breslin supply, part supply. So you do have the drill down capability. Then also we have this is just a sample of what a standard income statement is. So as out of the box, here's what it looks like. So we've got our revenue and our cost of sales, and you can change the way. Maybe you don't want a variance, maybe you don't want a budget. You can easily remove that information. And this is just what a standard out-of-the-box balance sheet looks like. So one of the things so now what I want to do is based on these standard reports, there's some things that you can do just by using some of the tools that are added into Excel. The first thing I'd like to do is just give you an idea of these are your standard reports. And if you look at this, just income statements, there are 11 different types of income statements that you can run and then change once you get out there. There are 4 balance sheets. And then I think this is a great one right down here, the actual year-to-date comparison to the last 5 years. So just the power to look at data without having to compare a bunch of different reports together, to have all this information in one report is pretty powerful. So how to run a report? You have a couple options. You can either run it from outside of Mass by accessing the Sage Mass Intelligence folder and clicking on Report Manager, or as I alluded to initially, is we can drag that shortcut to the Mass 90 desktop. And by putting it there, all you have to do is click on it. Once you click on it, you have access to the connector, the license, the report manager, the report viewer, and the security manager. So typically when you're running a report or designing a report, you're going to stay within Report Manager. So you would just click on Report Manager, and then it brings you a login, and you select a company code and your username and password. And it's pretty helpful. It gives you it reminds you what your username and password would be. And then it also has the report repository where those reports will be located. Once you open up Report Manager, you simply highlight the report. In my reports, or whatever you decide to call it, highlight the report that you want to run, and then press the forward button, the little green arrow, or you could right-click on that report and press Run. And once you press the Run, then you're prompted for your fiscal start and end date, and the year, and the budget code. Now these are the standard reports. So those are the standard selection criteria. And once you select OK, it starts executing the report, and then it ends up out in Excel. So when we talked about the financial reports, I showed you a sample of what they look like. You can also create a consolidated report. And we're going to look at consolidated income statement quickly. And you would go into, by accessing Report Manager, you would highlight consolidated income statement. And then you have the option to change what company code you want in there. So you could have one or you could have all in there, and it would give you the the information income statement for each one of those company codes. And for our demo, I've just picked ABC and ABX. And then once I get out to Excel, this is what it looks like out in Excel. I can then start playing with it and start creating. Because it is consolidated, I can make some changes. And in this one, I'm taking that standard income statement, and I've just changed it a little bit to be able to create income statement with company totals by rows. And so now you can see that I have revenue. Once I open up revenue, I then have each company code, the revenue numbers that make it up. And if you clicked on it one more time, you could drill down to see the line items that make that up as well. And then also, taking that same report, I made some changes, and I said I'd like to see the company income statement, but I don't want to see them all in one. I would just like to be able to pick a company. So by adding a filter, I'm able to pick ABC or ABX, or on the first one it was all. And whoops, hold on, I need to go to the actually, I want to look at this first, and then we'll go to the previous. This is one of my favorite tools that we have here, and it's dynamic cost-benefit analysis, or what Mass Intelligence calls the what-if analyzer. So we have an income statement here, and you can select from a tool, you can select a what-if analyzer. And so what you can do, you're changing the figures on your spreadsheet to assist you when you want to do some forecasting or budgeting or just making some decisions about your future. So what I would like to do is go and show you this in action. And I'm going to go right here. So here we have it out here. One of the things as what Sage Mass Intelligence does, it gives you a couple add-ins. It gives you, actually we can't access it with here, but it gives you one called BI Tools. And in BI Tools, we can launch, we can refresh data, we can actually change our period. If we didn't want something other than period 12, we can change our period from there. We can do the what-if analyzer. And what the what-if analyzer does, we can change just by one period, or we could do all periods by just going here. And watch what happens when I change the revenue. So if you notice on the activity here, if I'm changing my revenue, it's showing it. We'll go right here. So we're changing it. And so the numbers are changing. So let's say you're forecasting that your revenue is going to increase by 25%, and you're really good about sourcing some things, so maybe your cost of goods are only going to increase by, say, 10%, and you're going to try to cut some of your costs and expenses. Your goal is to cut it by 10%. If you watch what happens, now if we go to the bottom, you can see immediately what your net income and loss is. So watch what happens as I change. Keep an eye on this line right here. So as I start changing it, that changes as well. So, so this is a pretty effective tool for when you're trying to budget and forecast. We could also go here. We can do a quick edit. And this is my company by rows, and I just want to show you just how easy it is to make some changes. So if I didn't like something in here, it takes me to this report designer, and I can remove some things, right? Maybe I don't want to see, and I'm just going to tickle your fancy here, maybe I just don't want to see that. So, and once I regenerate my layout, I should not have, it's going to generate real quick. So it's going through and parsing all the data. And you notice how easy it was for me to just change that information. I just changed the way this looked. So this really just shows you how very easy it was. So as I had alluded to that I took a standard consolidated income statement and I just made changes. As I made changes, I created something called company by rows, right? I created something called actual versus prior and select a company. So here was my selecting the company. I could pick them all or I could just pick one. And then, as I mentioned before, you could also drill down on your revenue. So for instance, in here, I have all of my revenue, or I could just go from, I could collapse it all as well. All right, so we're just going to go back into our slideshow. And, okay. So as when we were in the when we were in the tool, we had actually gone to the BI tools. So the first, I then took another report, the income statement, and I wanted to do something, an actual versus budget. And I'm just going to back up one because it looks like my, oops, sorry, looks like my pages got out of whack. There we go. So I took a standard income statement and I made some changes to it, just using, this is the standard one, actual versus budget with no budget in math. So we can generate this and have it refer to a budget that's stored in an Excel spreadsheet. And so we don't have to worry about keeping the budgets up. We can maintain them outside without impacting the report. So this information here, all this information is stored outside in an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, we're going to go past this one. So to get to that, I would just go to the BI tools. I would run the report, go to the BI tools, and do a launch. And what that does, that launches that report designer. And when we were looking at the live, that's what the report designer got in there, and I made the changes that I needed to make. Another income statement that I did, based off the same standard income statement, I then created an income statement by department. And it prints it for a specific department or departments, and I mapped those. I mapped all the information to, in this case, the department is in the second segment. So I created a filter and said I only wanted to see anything with it, that second segment that the department equaled 01. I could, while I'm in Excel, I could then change that department. I could change the period. I could change the date selection. So you're not constantly having to rerun that information. Then the same thing, not only departments, but creating a financial statement grouped by account segments. I added a filtering to the account segment on the report worksheet, and then I used VLOOKUP. So I was able to break it out by, in this case, it was region and purchase. When you think about, say math allows you to have in 4.3 and above, it allows you to have up to 32 segments, 32 characters in your GL, 10 segments. That's a lot of segments. We're finding that most customers, and I think that it was initially, a lot of people did their reporting from the general ledger, from the chart of accounts, but there's such robust reporting in the subledgers that most of our customers find out that they are getting most of the information that they need from the subsidiary ledgers. So they're leaving their general ledger chart of accounts usually to a 2 or a 3 segmented GL number. So we have here, what we did was we just created this. I could change this, again, dynamically changing this information because I've done this VLOOKUP in the Excel spreadsheet. I don't have to worry about going in and rerunning the report over and over and over again. So we are, I could filter and have each information come up, and then it's period 1, period 2, period 3, etc. Let's see. I know that FRX uses reporting trees and columns. So that's, and this is very similar to that, but we are giving you the ability, we're giving you the ability to change it dynamically here. So again, using those tools that I showed you in the Excel spreadsheet, you could change your period, you could filter out this way. And then you can export it, you can send it to people. In a few minutes I'll show you can even set up a macro to do an email. Another thing, here we go, I did a revenue report, taking a standard report, and I created a calculation in Excel that I could do a percentage of revenue. So I'm, exposing you to just some of the really great tools that you have. You can also do a rolling trend report, and from the income statement, and I went into the report designer, I made some changes, and I created this rolling 3-month income statement. And you notice down here I had an April report and May report, and it keeps rolling forward. So April, March, or rolling, actually February, March, April. It's a little out of it's out of order. But then if I was to click on May, you would see May, April, and March, and it went down the line. So I had a 3-month rolling report all in one workbook. One of the things so that you know is to keep in mind is that the first time that you create one of these reports, you actually link it to the report. You link the spreadsheet to the report. So the next time that you run it, all of the changes that you made show up. And when we talk about changes, you could add your logo, you could add other information. So you're not having to constantly reinvent the wheel, constantly redoing calculations. It does attach it to the report when in SMI. As I alluded to before, you can email, other than just the standard where most people do send an email, but you can set up a macro to email a workbook to someone. And then by clicking on running the macro, it'll prompt you who do you want to email it to. So it does allow you can, and that's just using the add-in feature in Excel. Some of the other non-financial reports that they have that are standard is the customer sales report. And so this is standard. You could modify, and you can modify any of these reports by just making a copy of it and then making some changes to it. So you could do a gross, gross profit analysis by customer, product, and sales, and by changing the salesperson, you could look at analyze sales by date by sales rep, and changing in Excel in those add-in, you could change your dates and just dynamically changing this information. And this is a typical, this is a pivot table basically. So you can do some analysis, gross profit analysis by salespeople. We have also a vendor purchases report that comes with it, and again, choosing, this is a pivot table that it is exported to. You can look at all product lines, warehouse divisions, or you could also, because it is a pivot table, you could also right-click it and add more information if you wanted, or remove information. Then there is the inventory report, and this is just warehouse and product line. It comes with this. You can make a copy of it, and you can add or remove information, whatever you choose. And then one of the other ones is a transaction details. So we selected it for fiscal year of 2002 for period 2, and you can change as you're coming along here. You can change your period as well. So we are, I just grabbed a snapshot of what what the information that comes with it. And your posting comments, of course, are driven by, your settings in your various modules. And then the trend analysis report. So we've got the trend analysis report. I had made it on inventory. One of the things that you can do, so we have this, we ran this for this inventory, right? And then I can drill down to find out in a particular, to find out what's made up, what's supporting this. So by drilling down to real data, I can look and see, oh, okay, well, I understand now why, you know, why I've got the 14, why I have a debit here. Here's all my credits. It shows you where it came from. This is a reversing journal entry, that type of thing. So it gives you the ability to analyze your data without having to run a bunch of information or look up a bunch of detail. You can see it right here in front of you. So let's talk about those. So those are all the standard reports. And now I want to talk about some of the tools. We alluded to the report viewer. And what the report viewer is going to do is going to give a person or persons the ability to view the reports and drill down in the reports, but they can't change what the report looks like, right? You could filter and you could change the parameters, but you can't add data or take data out of the report. And the nice thing about the report viewer is that when you highlight a particular report, what it does is it gives you a quick description of what that is. So there's no question about, oh, I wonder which one this is. So each one comes with a description. And even the ones that you create, you would just put just a quick description, so it makes it easy for whoever is running the report viewer. They don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out which one they want to run. So, excuse me, Mass Intelligence has some upcoming enhancements. And, pardon me, they are going to be adding reporting trees, which should make all FRX users have a collective sigh of relief. There's going to be an FRX conversion utility, and there will be some enhanced report distribution as well, other than just emailing. So, ease of use, consolidations, and standard reports. Those are just some of the benefits of Sage Mass Intelligence. When we look at, let's talk about intelligence, SMI versus FRX. So what it supports the redo and undo of report design changes, and it's simply by linking and unlinking. Financial calculations, IRR, PV, standard deviation. You can change your fonts and any other format, and it's driven by the data. You're using native Excel for charts and graphs, so you don't have to, learn something else to be able to create a graph. Data validation, improved data validation. It automatically, if you wish, it'll initiate those charts and graphs. And then you can create these dynamic filters and parameters from within the report manager. It extends all of the abilities or the capabilities of FRX beyond financial reporting in every other module. So it takes that power of it and takes it to other modules. We are going to have SMI training through DM2 University. They're on the horizon. The SMI classes are scheduled to begin in December. We'll have some more information on that, but it's going to include an intermediate report design and also advanced report design. And after you've taken those, then there's one other step, and it's called a financials report workshop. And that financials report workshop is going to go over some of the little tips and tricks I showed you today. Some of the, for instance, the percentage of revenue, and but creating an actual to budget when your budget's not in math, that type of thing. So there's 15, I believe, 15 reports that we'll cover in the financial report workshop. So so here's some FAQs. The presentation will definitely be available for all attendees and probably early next week. FRX will be supported by Sage and DM2 until Sage is doing support on FRX until the end of 2012. However, 4.5 will not be shipped with it, so therefore there will not be any support at all. It will work on 4.4. That gives you some time for the transition to SMI, so it's not going to impact any of your current 4.4 financial FRX financial reporting for those of you that are currently in upgrade to 4.4. Some of the system requirements for SMI is Excel 2007. It is Excel 2003, but you cannot use the report designer in 2003, which is why I don't even include 2003 anymore. And the report designer really is what gives us that flexibility to make the change in what those reports look like when we get into Excel. So do you need to be aware of any Odbc reporting limitations? SMI has a universal query engine, and so you have unrestricted access to ER database across all modules, tables, and fields in the database. So as a reminder, FRX will continue to work for Mass 90, 405, 430, and 440 for a limited time, but eventually we are going to have to convert your FRX reports to SMI. I think we went through that really fast. Excuse me. Our next webinar is on November 17th, and it's Sage CRM meets SQL database reporting webinar. We will be sending you, excuse me, you can either, once you get the copy of this presentation, you can register from here. Excuse me. Okay, so that is the rundown through Sage Mass Intelligence, and now we can open it up for questions. I have not been following along to see if there have been any questions.
Denise, we have a few. Yeah, Billy will start reading off the questions. I just want to repeat that November 17th will be the Sage CRM meets SQL Data Warehouse. That's our next webinar. And we do have one planned for December. It's going to be based on card lock. We don't have the exact date selected right now, but we'll certainly send out that information. And we'll give everyone an update on what's going on with the Pack Pride changes in that webinar. So Billy, I'll hand it over to you for the questions, and we'll let the panelists respond.
Okay, the first question is, when looking for other Odbc compliant databases, will this work with Timberline?
Yes, it will, as long as it's listed on the, I'm not sure, as long as it's listed on the list, or there's another option for other, and it should, because it is also
or values. And Denise, I'll pass it back to you to explain what a reporting tree is in SMI.
So that's exactly reporting tree. Right now it's line to line. They don't have reporting trees here yet, but SMI, Sage believes that they don't need them, because if you look in here, you've already defined what the order is. And I just want to come in here. So you've already major definition of what order you want things to be, and you can change those here. But there are some complicated and complex reporting trees in FRX that they are going to add, so you can make that, you can convert your FRX reports. But from simple income statements and types, right now they don't need them.
Okay. The next question, can you retrofit it back to version 4.3? We just upgraded to 4.3 and will not be upgrading for approximately 3 to 5 years to version 4.4.
No, it does not work with. Sage made the decision that it was a 4.4 tool, and it does not work with 4.3.
Okay. The next question is, can you run old period reports in SMI after converting from FRX to SMI?
Old period reports? Yes, because you are able to, if I understand what the question is, so once you've converted those reports, you are determining what your period is at the time of running the report, and it's looking at your database. So yes, unless I'm not totally missing the point of the question.
Okay, and the next question is, does it work with Excel 2010?
Yes, it has to be a minimum of 2007, but yes, it does work with 2010.
Okay, the next question, can canned reports be customized or built upon?
Yes, and that is exactly what I did today. All of these reports here, if you can still see mine, these are all the canned reports, and I've built off of them. And I built off of them by just going to the quick edit and pulling what I wanted to do and what report I wanted, and I just made changes. But yes, you can build. That's the power of this. You know, when we think about, you know, the power of it, you can quickly get information for strategic planning, but for strategic planning for operations by using Excel, and you have all this data right here. And when we say quickly, you're not constantly having to run in multiple reports. You can just go in here, you can change your period, you can make the changes.
Okay, the next question. When are the reporting trees, excuse me, when are the reporting trees enhancements going to be available?
They're supposed to. According to Sage, they're supposed to be available this quarter, but it's not. So it'll be either the end of this quarter or the beginning of next quarter. That's what we've been told. And I was talking to them this morning to see if I could get an update.
And the last question that we have so far, will it report fuel taxes?
Yes. I just showed you, well, you can get fuel tax information. You can get any information by building a container off of any module. So fuel taxes off of the FT module. So you can get that information out of there. Absolutely. You would need the connector license to build a new container. But the only thing that I did was show you today what was canned. You know, I was playing around with it just to create a quick report for just out of Equipment Manager just to show a customer agreement. And you know, it's pretty straightforward. You can grab that information out.
Okay, and here is another question. Can information from an external spreadsheet be imported into a mass report?
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I did with the report that had no budget. I did a budget comparison with no budget in mass. I just used an external Excel spreadsheet. So yes, it can. And the way that I did that is I modified it by going and using the report designer. That's why I say that having 2003, it'll work, but you can't use report designer. So you're missing half of your tools if you can't use report designer.
And that is the last question at the moment.
Okay. I wanted to just revisit a question about when is the reporting trees going to be available and the FRX conversion utility. And you know, Sage, we have no control over Sage's timeline, but because FRX is still going to work in 4.4, and you do have that time to make that, you know, so it's not going to stop working in December or in January of 2012. You still will be able to use it, and it will still be supported. So you do have a little bit of time to make the transition. So I just want, you know, it's not like a hard deadline that after this date FRX isn't going to work anymore.
Here is another question. What is the average time to complete a conversion from FRX to SMI?
I do not have that information for you because we have not done it yet.
No other questions at the moment.
Well, Billy, if people have other questions, should they just email them in?
Sure, that would be great. You can email it to me at the GoToMeeting invitation that was sent to you, and I will forward it out to the appropriate people.
Okay. And then I want to revisit I just want to make another mention about the SMI. We'll be getting information about the SMI classes in December, and I think that it'll be really beneficial. You will be, when you're finished with the classes, you will have a comfort level to be able to start playing around with your math intelligence tool.
Great, and just a reminder, our next webinar is November 17th. Sage CRM meets SQL Data Warehouse. December will be Card Lock. And thank everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.